Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on how to become a PhD student of the University of Tartu. My name is Christopher Otto. I'm a master's degree student of Wellness and Spa Service Design and Management, and also a member of the ISA. The ISA is a body that works together with students, with the marketing team in order to promote academics and the program of the University of Tartu. We're a team of 18 ambassadors from 11 different countries and 4 different continents. Now, the aim of this webinar is to hear firsthand from our PhD students. We have amazing speakers today that will talk to you about their personal experiences on how to get a project, supervisor, proposal writing, and general tips you need, admission processes. And guess what? Just stay tuned and hear everything they have to say. Well, we have 3 speakers. We have Merit from the PhD in Arts and Humanities. We have Sandeep from the PhD in Science and Technology. And we have Ruby, PhD in Medicine. Thank you for coming today. Well, after a long time, you would have an opportunity to ask questions and you get suitable answers for your questions. Find below on the question and answer sections box, please send all questions to the question and answer section so that it will be easier for us to give you beautiful answers to your question. Now, we want to welcome our first speaker for today, Sandeep, all the way from India. He's a PhD student in the University of Tartu in the Department of Geography, Faculty of Science and Technology, Institute of Ecology and Earth Science, specializing in physical geography. He's working with the studies with greenhouse gas emission remotely since data sets and is based on key research. You will hear directly from him. So the floor is all yours, Sandy.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. At least good evening from Tartu. So, she said, I'm a PhD student in physical geography. I study greenhouse gas emissions from peatland. So let's get to it right away. I'm going to share my screen. I have presentation right here. I hope you can see it. Is it visible now? I'm guessing it is. Okay, cool. So yeah, a little bit about me. I'm Sandeep Thayamkottu. I'm a PhD student in physical geography, studying greenhouse gas emissions from peatlands, that is bogs and fens. So I use remote sensing data sets, that is satellite data, climatic data sets, and then a bit of microbiology. So I build machine learning models to estimate emissions like peatlands in the globe. So yeah, that's the thing. So I mostly use machine learning models, random forest, for example. Some of you would know that, and then support vector machines, or even simple basic models like generalized additive models. That's the topic, and I would today for today's presentation, I would just go through. I'm not going to discuss about my topic too much, but rather my life as a PhD in Tartu, and then how I ended up here, how I'm going through, like I'm a second year PhD student now. So how was my first year versus how I'm doing it right now, and then what's my future plan? Well, in a nutshell, that's the thing. So as you can see in the slide, well, to sum up, it's all true. In the beginning, I thought, yeah, I'm going to make a pretty good thesis. I'm going to make a pretty good thesis, but it's going to be a smooth journey. But as I know it right now, it's not that easy. There will be always some kind of troubles, some kind of challenges. Well, that's part of PhD life. You have the challenges, and in the beginning when I started, I always thought that I might be able to write a paper, say rewrite maybe a manuscript, say 5 times, 6 times, and then voila, I'll have a good draft in the end. But that sometimes it's not going to be the case. You'll have to say revise it a lot of time. So yeah, it's all true. And yeah, why PhD? It's a good question. Like a lot of my friends would ask me, why do you want to do PhD? To them, I only have few answers. One, I love research. I hate the monotonous job of, let's say, 9 to 5, going in the office, sit in a place, work there, and come back, do the same thing all over again. PhD life is not like that. You gotta, each day you'll have different troubles, different questions to answer, different challenges, and then you have the freedom to explore. You're not bound to certain limits, certain boundaries. If you know if you have the idea, and you can always learn and apply and on that idea, and like make it a reality. That's a possibility. Personally, I like to analyze things. I like to figure out patterns in the data. So in my research, I always try to assess multiple data sets and figure out what, say, underlying patterns in that. Say, what's causing carbon emission? Say, what is the controlling factors in carbon emission from peatland, something like that. Yeah, that's the reason. And why University of Tartu? Main reason, the project and the group. So I applied here back in 2020 when the pandemic started. So I was back home going through the university website, and I was searching for going through the department and profiles of the researchers, and I found both of my supervisors' profiles, and I found it interesting. And I checked if they have a project, open project. Luckily, they had one, and I contacted them. And the rest is history, and I'm here. The second thing is that compared to the rest of the world, say UK or US, we have scholarships. If you apply for the project, you will get a scholarship one or the other way, in most cases. And here at the Department of Geography, they'll provide you to ample opportunities, to improve yourself, nurture your skills in teaching, presentation, and yeah, like most of the PhD students will have to present their work or their results or their ideas during a department seminar. It usually happens on Wednesdays. And then bonus points. Like once I got here, I really loved the city because the simple bureaucracy. You don't need because to get things done here, and that's pretty easy, and it's quite calm and peaceful, and it's easy to commute. Like everything's so nearby, you don't have to. Everything is, say, in a walkable distance. So that's one of the reasons I would choose the university. And then, yeah, right now, where am I now with my PhD? Well, I finished my first objective. Yeah, but please don't ask me about the paper, because that's still in the pipeline. We submitted, finished the manuscript, but still need to do some work on that. And then, yeah, right now, second objective, going through the hard phase, but sooner or later, I'm going to figure it out. Thinking of a potential, planning for a potential collaboration with a different research group in Europe. So yeah, that's where I'm right now. And in the future, yeah, collaboration, and then finished all the objectives, defend the thesis one day, and then find a postdoc. Yeah, that's the story. And thanks. That's from me. That's all from me, and all the best.
Wow, after hearing that, I'm beginning to think I can't just be done with my master's and go over to my PhD. That's what going to be next year then. Maybe I would be you. Now, thank you for that beautiful one, Sandeep. We're going to the next speaker, Marit. Marit is a second-year PhD student at a junior research fellow of the Institute for Estonian and General Linguistics. And she's going to tell us specifically some interesting things about the language studies. When I checked about her, there's so many amazing things to learn from her. The floor is all yours, Marit.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, please.
Yes, great. Okay, so as you just heard, my name is Merit. I'm a second-year PhD student at the Institute of Estonian and General Linguistics, and my program is called Estonian and Phonetics Linguistics. Now, in my talk, I will first talk a bit about myself. How did I become a PhD student at the University of Tartu? And then I will try to give you some advice on how to plan your own PhD studies and how to apply for PhD studies. And I will also shortly talk about how to get the most out of your PhD studies if you decide to come to Tartu to study. Now, first a bit about myself. I'm actually originally from Germany. I came to Estonia right after high school. I worked here for a bit and then I started studying at university. I did both my bachelor's and my master's here. And since 2020, I'm a PhD student here. So basically, I've spent all my life as a university student here in Tartu, or enrolled as a student of the University of Tartu. However, I have also spent some time at other universities. So I studied for a year in Finland at the University of Oulu and also spent a semester in Hungary at ELTE in Budapest. So while I have been a student of the University of Tartu for most of my time, I also have gathered some experience in other countries, so I'm able to compare a bit. And very briefly about my own PhD project. So I'm a linguist. I'm working on a very small language, Anarsami. It belongs to the same language family as Estonian, Finnish, and Hungarian. And as you can see on this map here is Tartu in Estonia, and Anarsami is spoken in this northernmost part of Finland. And it's a really small language spoken by approximately 500 people nowadays. And it's endangered, but it has been recently revitalized. So in my own research project, I'm looking on the language and how it has changed in the process of this revitalization. And in particular, I'm looking at the grammar of the language. But how did I end up as a PhD student at the University of Tartu? Well, as you already heard, I already did my bachelor's and my master's here. And after I graduated from my master's, I just felt like I want to continue doing research. I really like analyzing things and discussing my results with others and writing about my results. And it's just, I really like doing research. And also I already had some experience with conferences. So I already attended some conferences and I just felt like I want to see more of this academic world. And it was just kind of natural for me to try to pursue a PhD. And of course, it might seem very convenient that I ended up here in Tartu because I was already living here. And well, of course, it was convenient, but there's also a reason why I have been here for such a long time, because Tartu is a really great place to live in. So if you have never been to Tartu, it's a really nice student town and there's many university students and there's always something to do. There's many events going on. And yeah, it's just the right size. It's not too small and not too big, for my taste at least. And also my previous experience with the University of Tartu have been very good. So from the very beginning on, I really liked our institute. The people working there are very approachable, very open. Whenever I had a question, I could always ask for help or advice. And another thing that I really like is how flexible the curricula are. So while we had some mandatory courses, we could basically choose ourselves when we are going to take them. And well, of course, there's some things that you have to take into consideration. So if you have a course that has a part 1 and a part 2, then you probably should take the part 1 first. But other than that, it's basically up to you how you want to plan your time. And especially as a PhD student, you don't have that many compulsory courses. You're basically very, very free in how you want to plan your time. And also, it's really great to have such a wide range of selective courses. So when you're enrolled at the University of Tartu, you basically can take whatever course from whatever faculty you want as an additional course. So, for example, I studied linguistics, but I took some courses in programming in my bachelor's already, just because I was interested in it, and I just could take it as additional selective courses. So that's a really great option to have. And for somebody who grew up in Germany and also has lived in Hungary, a great thing about Estonia really is the small amount of paperwork that you have to deal with in the University of Tartu, but also in Estonia in general. So that's also a big plus, I would say. And also there are many international projects. So already in my bachelor's and master's, I could attend summer and winter schools and go to summer courses in other countries. So there were many possibilities, and I just felt like the UT is a very good choice for my field of research, but also for many other fields. And it offers many possibilities for PhD students in general. So I will also try to give some advice to you when you're thinking about doing a PhD in Tartu. However, it of course very much depends on where you're from, what is your field of study, what is the program you want to apply for. So I will try to keep it very general. Of course, the first thing you should think about is your topic and your supervisor. Now at the University of Tartu, there's 2 possibilities. You either apply for a project-based PhD position. That means that there's already a project and there's a certain topic and you can apply for this topic. The other possibility is that you have your own topic and you apply with your topic. Now, in my case, in our institute, we didn't have any project-based positions. So all of us, we just applied with our own topics. And in that case, it's recommended that you have a supervisor already. And concerning supervisors, you can have more than one. And your main supervisor should be from the University of Tartu, but you can also have additional supervisors. So for example, if you did your master's somewhere else and you want to continue your PhD with a PhD in Tartu, and maybe you want to still continue working with your former supervisor, but you also want a supervisor from the University of Tartu, then you can have this kind of cooperation. And also it's possible to take additional supervisors later on. So for example, if you're already way into your research and then you realize that, oh, you need like the expertise of someone else who has specialized on a certain area, then you can contact this person and maybe they could become your second or third supervisor. And then a thing that you would want to discuss with your supervisors most likely is whether you write a monograph or an article-based dissertation. Basically, both of those are possible. I guess it depends also on the field. In linguistics, we really have both. I'm personally writing an article-based dissertation, but it's really up to you, and there's pros and cons for both of them. And another thing that I would advise you to do is to think of an approximate time frame. So when do you plan to do your fieldwork or your experiments or gather your data in general? And when are you planning to analyze it? When do you want to write your articles? So for example, if you write an article-based dissertation like I do, then you have 4 years to write at least 3 articles and also the thesis itself. So you have to really think about how you want to do it. And of course, just keep in mind that you might not stick to your initial timelines. A lot might change. There might happen something like COVID and you won't be able to do fieldwork. However, it's really good to just from the beginning on think it through. And it's especially like valuable when you have your entrance interview, that you can just show that you know exactly what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how are you going to accomplish it? Like, what is the time frame? When are you going to do what? And yeah, when you apply with your own topic, then you have to write a project proposal. In my case, you were asked to write a project proposal which should be 3 pages long and include all of the following that is listed here. So a justification for the choice of topic and the research purpose. So basically a background, why am I doing this research? Why is it important? Then the main research problems and goals. Then also an illustrative structure of the thesis, a timetable for the planned research, a short overview of the most relevant former research in the field, and also an illustrative list of literature with the most important literature on my topic. And I was supposed to fit all of this into 3 pages, which to me seemed rather impossible. So I ended up having two additional pages of literature and having all the other topics on the first 3 pages. And well, it's manageable. And what I would advise you to do, if you have such recommendations from your program, for the admission for your program, then just at least how I did it is that I just took all these different topics, put them as headers for different sections of my proposal, and just started writing about every single one of them. And of course, there's certain things that you want to focus on. So you should elaborate more on why your research is important and what exactly are your methods and your main research questions and these things. And yeah. Of course, that's again something that really depends on what kind of program you're applying for. And yeah, just to give you an idea of how my timetable looked like, because I was honestly a bit confused how I am supposed to write a timetable for my research before even having started it. And already when applying for the PhD position. And what I ended up doing is that I just had a table, really simple one, with 2 columns. One column for the year, so first, second, third, fourth, and then the other column for the activities that I want to do in this year. And then I had just very general phrasing, like in the first year, I'm going to read more about the theoretical background on this topic. I'm going to gather data for this and that, and I'm going to analyze it. I will start writing my first article. And just have this very general phrasing, which actually also really helps you to think it through how you want to achieve what you want to achieve with your PhD. So how are you going to manage your time? And yeah, then if all goes well, then you will probably be invited to an entrance interview. I would just tell you not to worry too much about it, because you already got this far, so you can't really screw it up anymore. So yeah, if your proposal was good enough or your motivation letter was good enough, I don't think the entrance interview will keep you from getting the position. And of course, be prepared to answer questions. You can't really prepare for them, I guess, because you wouldn't know what kind of questions to expect. However, if you applied with your own topic, then you should definitely be prepared to just be able to shortly introduce your research. So it's very likely that they will ask you, like, now talk for 5 minutes about your topic, or tell us why it's so important, and this kind of typical questions. And of course, if there's anything you feel unsure about, just remember that you can always ask your supervisor for help. And yeah, that's the last question I want to address: how to get the most out of your PhD studies. So the most important, I would say, is just to be active and take advantage of all the possibilities that you have as a PhD student. So there's lots of events that are organized by the doctoral school that you can attend. I especially recommend the writing retreats. So these are places where you can actually focus on writing, and at the same time you get to meet other PhD students, which is really cool. And also conferences in Estonia, but also abroad. And of course, also use the possibilities to get funding to attend conferences, and make sure to meet and engage with other PhD students. So for example, a great way to get more of your own writing done is to have a writing group together with other people and read each other's papers and comment on them. and also take courses offered by the university that you're interested in, even if they're not directly related to your own research. Still use this possibility. But at the same time, also keep in mind to not overdo yourself, don't overwork, and just try to keep a balance. And if you need anything, just ask for it. So for example, in our institute, not everybody gets, or PhD students generally don't get automatically like a desk assigned or a place to work. However, when you just ask for it, when you tell, for example, your supervisor that you want to work at the university and you would like a desk, then that's of course something that can be arranged. So whenever you have anything that you need or any questions, just ask about it. And that's everything from me. Welcome to Tartu.
Wow, thank you. Such great information shared. I would save it for next year. Yes, definitely. The next University of Tartu's PhD student in the making. Yes. Well, thank you so much. Well, you can direct all your questions to the question and answer box so that you can get direct answers. Now we're going to our next speaker, Ruby. She works in the Faculty of Medicine and the neuroscience curriculum. She also works in the Department of Pharmacology, Institute of Biomedicine, and Translational Medicine. She's a third-year student and she's from India. So she's going to be having the floor, tell us all we need to know. And this time around, I'm so saving this.
So is my presentation visible?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you've heard a lot from my colleagues, and it's my time to share my experience and perspective of being a PhD student at University of Tartu. And PhD seems to be the next logical degree that you can pursue after your master's if you want to pursue an academic career. So let's see my experience. So a little about me. I'm Ruby Gupta, and I have an integrated master's degree in life sciences. Previous to coming here in Tartu as a PhD student, I worked as a research assistant, and I'm currently in the third year studying neuroscience. And I study about the role of mitochondria in neurological disorders. I come from India. So why did I choose to do PhD? First and foremost, of course, love for neuroscience. I have always been fascinated with the subject since my bachelor's degree. Previous to joining PhD, I've also been actively going to different labs for several months. And then I understand that, okay, I am a fit to the research environment. And I think I want to pursue PhD and dwell deeper into my subjects. Of course, interesting projects and the experimental methods that are available in my current labs were very motivating because it's something different from what I was previously doing. So it was interesting and challenging to me. And I was also seeking for international experience and exposure. So a typical day for me as a PhD student looks like this in general. I do a lot of cell culture activities. I work with neuronal cells, also some secondary and primary cell lines. I do a lot of confocal and fluorescence imaging and a lot of data analysis. So for the requirements for getting a PhD degree, once you've enrolled into the program, is that you have to fulfill 60 credits of doctoral studies. You have to have 180 ECTs of research done, and there is an annual evaluation and attestation. The most important part is to have at least one first author paper and 2 co-author papers. And of course, you have to write the thesis. So the average duration in a PhD program in neuroscience is 5 to 8 years. But keep in mind, the official funding is only up to 4 years. So here, the supervisor can provide the funding after 4 years, depending on how you're progressing with the project. So what is the process of applying for a PhD? First, you have to find a supervisor with shared interest. Then either you alone or with your supervisor decide on a proposal. You write the proposal. You submit your application to estoniadreamapply.com. And then if you are selected, then you're called for an interview, and then you apply for visa, and then you arrive to Tartu. The most important part is to find a supervisor with shared interest, because you spend your prime years doing PhD. So you want to make sure that you're having a good journey. Of course, PhD is hard for everyone, but a supportive and encouraging supervisor can make it much easier. I would highly encourage you to research about the lab. It's often very nice to talk to ex-students and current students about the lab environment and supervisor's personality. Try to identify as many as red and green flags, and read between the lines when you're conversing with the employees and also the supervisor. So once you get past the application process and you reach the interview stage, I would again encourage you to interview your supervisor and the lab as much as they would like to interview you. So what are pros of doing a PhD, specifically in neuroscience or medicine? Of course, it is the highest academic degree one can achieve, and you are getting paid to work on your passion and contribute to the existing knowledge. You get to work whenever you want. There are flexible hours or sometimes crazy working hours. For example, as I mentioned, I work with cellular models, and some people work with animal models as well. And we have to go to our labs during weekends or have long weekdays. So yeah, it depends at what stage of your project you are in, or what is the nature of your project. Another advantage is that you work with like-minded people, and you get funding for going for conferences and see other people's work. You can pursue an academic career after you do your PhD. However, it's also possible to transition into industry using the skills that you learned during your PhD and transfer them to advanced industrial research or other job titles. Doing a PhD, you can find one or several mentors, and also you have an opportunity to become a mentor to bachelor's and master's students. One benefit of doing PhD is, one out of many benefits of doing a PhD at University Tartu is the health insurance. I know not many programs offer that. Definitely, you get to travel a lot because of conferences and different schools, and you get to make friends around the globe. So here is a picture of me attending a virtual conference thanks to COVID. And I would also like to mention this opportunity of Dora plus mobility scholarships that helps students go for an exchange to other universities for up to 1 to 10 months. I'll be going to University of Helsinki later this year. So let's talk about the cons of doing a PhD. As I mentioned, and you have heard from my colleagues, that it's definitely not an easy path. But now more than ever, there are more PhD holders than job opportunities, specifically in academia. Also, the salary is much less compared to the companies, and you have to constantly apply for grants and position, if not as much during your PhD, but later on. And you have to have your discipline stronger than your motivation. As a wet lab scientist, you tackle failures more often than success, and you might feel that you're lost or unmotivated. I think all PhD students would agree that having a balance in work and life balance is quite tricky, and imposter syndrome in PhD students is very common. However, the boat is not sinking, and there is a lot of support. You can find support groups on Twitter and Facebook. I personally have networked a lot using Twitter, and you can find emotional support, dumping your problems, sharing, knowing that you're not alone in the sea. And I have also found some writing groups. There is infinite opportunities if you use these platforms wisely. You also get to know about a lot of conferences, some even that are not very popular, but good place to meet people. You can use different hashtags in these platforms, and I think there is infinite knowledge and people to help you. I would also encourage you to have a life outside academia to survive PhD once you have decided that you want to pursue PhD. Tartu is a wonderful city. You have heard a lot about it by now, and Tartu offers a lot of activities to keep you entertained. So to conclude, I would say PhD is a marathon. And when you decide to do a PhD, look at the research and not so much like for the superficial characteristics like university rankings. Aim to find a good supervisor. It might be tricky, but I assure you there are amazing supervisors ready to mentor you. Pick a subject that you are really interested in. Enjoy your journey, and know that everyone's journey is unique. Know your priorities, know your why, what is your end goal, and seek support whenever you need from your friends, from your supervisor, and yeah, network as much as possible to build your career portfolio and make as many friends as possible. So yeah, you are the outcome of your PhD and not your degree. My contact information is below this slide, at the bottom of this slide, and I'll be happy to answer any questions during the webinar, and yeah, even later if you wish to contact me. So that's a wrap from me. Thank you.
Come on, I can just stop but continue clapping. Thank you so much, Ruby. This was not part of the plan. Now I had to deal with medicine, deal with science and technology, and language courses. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and such beautiful presentations. Well, we have some questions that are directed to our speakers for tonight. So I would love to hear you give answers to our prospective students of the University of Tartu's PhD. The first question says, how can I write a best SOP to continue my PhD in abroad? So you would hear our PhD students give you beautiful answers to that question.
So I would share my experience. When I got into contact with my supervisor, they already had some projects in mind. And when we decided, okay, this project looks interesting, and we all share our interest, we refined the proposal and we wrote it together, and then we submitted. But I know sometimes you are responsible to write your own SOP. But as everyone has mentioned, my colleagues have mentioned, bureaucracy is easy and everyone is here to help. So once you have a supervisor, reach out to them and they will help you write one.
Thank you. Having said that, we'll move to the next question. How can I get scholarship for abroad studies? We want Sandeep to give us an answer to this.
Cool. So if you want to apply for a position here in University of Tartu, you always will have funded. Your scholarship part would be covered unless if you're approaching with your own research proposal. If you're applying for a funded project, you could get a Dora Plus scholarship, which is usually 660 euros, and then a performance stipend, which is usually 400 euros. That's the at least that's the thing going on at my department. For your own project, I am not sure about that because I came through a funded project and I applied for a funded project. So other panelists might be able to answer that.
Yeah, actually, there has been a change in the system So before we used to have scholarships. So all of us who are talking today, we all have scholarships. But those of you who will start this year or later, you will actually be employed by the university. So you will be junior research fellows instead, and you will actually get a salary instead of a scholarship. So there has been this big change in the system, which is very good for you, the ones who are applying right now.
Yes, I recently read the salary will be around 1,550 euros. So I think that's quite good salary. So no one has to worry about the funding.
Thank you so much. Studies and still get money. University of Tartu is just so great. Thank you so much for those beautiful answers. Now we have a question that's divided into two sections. The first part says, as a PhD research scholar, I want to continue my postdoc from abroad in Indiology / South and Southeastern Asian Studies / Religion and Cultural Studies. How can I apply? So I would want to hear what Merit has to say about that.
I'm actually not sure if I understand the question correctly. Like, is the person already in a PhD and wants to continue their studies? They want to do a postdoc in Tartu? Because I'm not.
He needs generally the procedures on getting a postdoc in the University of Tartu.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not that qualified to answer that, I guess, because I'm not there yet. I haven't finished my PhD yet, but I guess as soon as you are in your PhD, you should have met people who probably might know about some projects that are going on somewhere, or you could just contact the staff of the respective institute and ask about if they have any ongoing projects where you could be a postdoc. I guess that's how it could work, but I guess the easiest is probably to talk to your supervisor and other people in the field, especially if they're connected to the University of Tartu. I don't know if anybody of the other two has an idea how to get into a postdoc in Tartu.
Well, you gave the best answer. Thank you so much. The next question says, how can I apply Dora plus scholarship? Let's hear what Ruby has to say about that.
So you mean Dora plus scholarship for PhD students, or the mobility scholarship, or just Dora plus?
Oh, nice. That means you're too. So you're going to tell us about it then.
So I think I have heard that there is a Dora plus scholarship for PhD students, but because I get this university funded and performance stipend, I don't know exactly how Dora plus scholarship works. But if you're talking about Dora plus mobility, then you have to submit a proposal and you have to have an invitation from another university. This is for an exchange. So if it's for just PhD, then yeah, I don't have information for that.
Okay.
For the exchange, I might be able to share a bit more information. Maybe it's usually there are two types of Dora plus mobility. One is like under say less than 1 month, and the other one would be more than a month, up to 10 months. For that, you need as she said, a letter of acceptance, and then a research proposal, which is like duly signed by all your supervisors. And yeah, that's it. It has it has a 3 deadline, if I remember. One during October or December, or then February, and then May, I guess. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. Well, we have a series of questions, so we're going to the next one. It says, is it possible to find ROA or TA position in the University of Tartu? We want to hear from Merit, what she has to say about that.
I guess RA means research assistant and TA teaching assistant. So it's very typical that at some point during your PhD you might teach a course. I mean, it's very encouraged that you can do that. And also for example, I get this scholarship, but I'm also a junior research fellow. So I'm in a project as a research assistant, you could say. So if you're doing research on your own topic, but you are interested in another topic, or there is a research group doing a project on something similar, then you can join them. But again, the system is really changing right now. So starting from next year, you will anyways be a junior research fellow. So you will sort of already be a research assistant and get a salary. So I'm not completely sure how it will work then because of these changes. But anyways, it's very encouraged to be teaching as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we'll move forward to the next question. It says, can you study as a PhD student and not live in Tartu/Estonia? And the next question, it comes in 3 different forms. Will it influence your tuition and performance stipend? We'll hear Sandeep tell us what he has to say about this.
What was the last question?
Okay, I'll take the first part. It says, can you study as a PhD student and not live in Tartu or Estonia?
Oh, that's impossible. You gotta be staying in Estonia to get the scholarship. Yeah. Well, I don't know about the current regulation. I'm pretty sure it's not going to change even for the employment contracts. But like for us, we can't leave Estonia, or we can't do our PhD from a different country. Say I guess there's a time limit. We can go out for like at least 2 months and stay out there, and still get the scholarship. But more than that, it's impossible as far as I know.
Okay, thank you so much. We've heard that from the horse's mouth. So now this question is directed to Ruby and Merit. And the question is, so we're going to be hearing 2 sides of answers from Ruby and Merit. Says, do project proposals need to be super great for scholarship? He's applying for a PhD in economics and business.
Did you say super great, or what did I hear?
Yeah, it said super great in the question.
Okay. So I would also like to answer the first part. So my partner was doing PhD in physics at University of Tartu, and I know someone who has been doing PhD from distant, probably because of COVID and because it's theoretical physics. So one doesn't have to be in the office or in the lab. So, but I think it's mandatory when you start. And yeah, I think the times have been tricky and a lot of things were quite hybrid. It depends on the field per se, and I think it's good to talk with the supervisor if that's possible. And about the super great SOP, I think I think in my experience and from my perspective, you should have a supervisor when already while applying and not at the end of the application. So when you are writing your proposal, you're already discussing it with your supervisor, and they refine it quite well for you as well, because they would also want to have a good student who can work with them. And so I think the proposal gets super great at the end of the day anyway. So I hand over it to Merit now.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like you generally you have a supervisor already, so yeah, you get already some comments, and you can improve your proposal before you submit it. So, but yeah, if you're unsure about some things, just ask your supervisor. If you think that some part of it should be still improved, then ask for recommendations, because they're there to supervise you. So you should use that possibility, even already during the application process, not only after you have started your PhD.
Thank you so much. maybe by this time next year, I'll have a lot of answers to these questions too. We have another question. It says, is it possible not to have articles on a topic you want to research with your supervisor? We want to hear Sandeep answer the question.
You meant research publications, right? In general, no, like it's best to, it could be nice to have an article in the specializing area, because that's always an added advantage. The topic that I'm currently doing here, it's peatland greenhouse gas emissions, but the paper that I have on is mostly on forest carbon dynamics. So the area is different, but the approach that I used was quite similar. I use remote sensing there, and I use remote sensing here as well. So usually the supervisors look for, in the papers, they look, at least in the case of PhD students, they look for if you can handle how well you can answer scientific literature, write scientific literature. That's the main, that they look for that. Yeah, and they need to know that you can manage your own work with minimal supervision. If that's, they look for that in the publications. And I guess you don't need to have exactly in the same area, but it's always an added advantage if you have that.
Okay, thank you so much. I have another question. It says, when would you recommend a monograph or article-based dissertation? I want to hear Ruby.
In my PhD, in my program, it's not possible to do a monograph-based dissertation. You have to have 3 articles, 1 first author and 2 co-author. But I would like to pass this question to Merit, because I think it's possible for art and humanities to have a monograph-based dissertation. So I think she's the best person to answer this.
Okay, Merit, thank you.
Yeah, for us in linguistics, for example, it's really 50-50, I would say. So half of the people write monographs and half of the people do article-based dissertations. And I think it really depends on your topic. So both, there are advantages and disadvantages to both of them. If you write a monograph, then you have this cohesive piece of work that you're constantly working at. But if you write an article-based dissertation, then you have this advantage that you're submitting your articles and you get reviews and you get constant feedback on your work. So throughout the years, you have this constant evaluation of your work, and you can improve yourself. And you also, it helps you to keep track, because you have only 4 years, or you're supposed to graduate within 4 years, and you have to have at least 3 articles, and you really have to try to manage in time. And I guess it's also a good way to keep yourself on track. But at the same time, when you have a monograph, for example, and you get like further in your research and you realize there's something in the beginning that you did wrong, or that you misinterpreted and you want to change it, then it's not a problem if you have a monograph. But if you write articles, then you can't go back and change the first article that you wrote after it's already published. So there's this positive side to the monograph as well. But I think I would really discuss it with your supervisor, and also think about the topic. So if it's a really cohesive topic that could really work well as one monograph, one book, then it's probably monograph is a good choice. But if you can really split it up well into different smaller topics or angles, then I think article-based works also really well. I guess it's also a matter of personal taste. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have a question from the medicine department this time, directly to Ruby. I am a graduate of medicine from Georgia. Can I apply for a PhD directly? And the second part of the question says, how can I find the supervisors? Because it's really not easy.
Yes, I think it's possible to apply for PhD right after graduation. And by graduation, I'm assuming master's degree, because graduation sometimes also means PhD degree, like getting the PhD degree. So if you have a master's degree, you can definitely apply for a PhD degree. And to get supervisors, I think the best way is to contact them, send emails. And if the supervisor has positions to fund you and has time to supervise you, and they will respond, and yeah, you can proceed with the application with them. So yeah, just keep on applying to writing emails to your to the prospective supervisors whom you think you have shared interest with. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I believe that was clear. Now, the next questions. What are the most important parts in choosing a good topic in linguistics and in finding a cool supervisor? What is your advice?
I think a good topic is a topic that you're interested in. That's the most important when going for a PhD. Don't study something because somebody else tells you to do it, but you have to be interested in it yourself. And well, I guess a cool supervisor is the one that is interested in the same thing. So find somebody who has similar research interests and who could be interested in the topic that you're interested in. I don't know if there's any linguistic specific advice in that sense. I mean, I could recommend all of the people at our institute. They are really great. So. But yeah, if you have any more specific questions, you can also write me personally.
Oh, okay, okay. We have some rather direct questions to you people. And the first one says, about your application experience. If you were to do something differently, what would it be? So I want to hear from Sandeep. Sorry, your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry about that. My application experience. So before applying for PhD in University of Tartu, I've been contacting potential supervisors all over the world. And like I've been attending interviews, and then here in Tartu specifically, I found like I didn't necessarily contacted my supervisor first. I found a professor who's directly working in remote sensing, and then contacted her, but she didn't have any project. So then then I contacted my current supervisor, and he had this project, and he asked me to write a research proposal on this topic. So it took me 2 weeks to do it. Like the first one I wrote, I thought it's not good. It wasn't even good. So I had to revise it, rewrite it in like 4 days or something, and then they accepted it, and they're like, you can right away apply for submit your application through Dream Apply. And then it was a 1 long month waiting, I guess, and I got the one fine day. I still remember it was Saturday something, not even a working day, and my supervisor, he mailed me and said, you got the position, we want to take you in. And yeah, we then the visa application during the COVID time, and I started working from India itself for the first 2 months, and then I got here. Yeah, that's how it is.
That's so nice. Oh, thank you. We've been hearing about so many nice things. But before then, let's hear from Ruby. Tell us about the most beneficial parts of being a PhD student of the University of Tartu.
So there are many benefits of being a PhD student at University of Tartu. I think University of Tartu and also people in Tartu and Estonia are very helpful. So I've never had to struggle with the bureaucracy, and everything is quite simple. So I just can focus on my research and not think about anything else. I think one good thing about my lab is it's well funded, so I don't have to think about lack of funding or lack of resources. So that is one good part. Also, the flexibility in working hours. It's not very tight. I mean, it's tight depending on when my experiments are happening, but not by people or not by the administration. Of course, I mentioned about the health insurance. The stipend has been good so far, so I think it's very comfortable to do PhD at University of Tartu, and I would really recommend others to come join us.
I can't wait for them to come either. Now, we've been hearing the good side. University of Tartu, yes, it's good, it's comfortable. I want to hear from Merit this time around. What has been the most challenging experience for you?
I'm going to have a really boring answer to that, which is COVID. Just keeping yourself motivated while having classes online, but also for me in particular, because when I started, then COVID had already started, and I want to do fieldwork, and I still haven't done it, and I'm in my second year, and at this point I would have already traveled up to northern Finland and gathered the material, but I'm really hoping for that I can do it this year during the summer, because ideally I would also work with older speakers. So the COVID situation makes that quite complicated, and I guess it's the same for many others as well. And also just that, you get accepted to all these cool conferences that take place in all these great places, and you think, wow, if there wouldn't be COVID, then I could travel there and actually see this place, all these benefits of the PhD studies, and you can't experience all of it because there's these travel restrictions and everything. Yeah, but it's not the University of Tartu to blame, so.
Yes, we can all relate. Now, COVID did a lot. And now, we want to find out what made you motivated to stay in the program, Sandeep?
So yeah, since the time I finished my first semester in masters, I always had a dream of doing research, pursuing a research career. So for that, PhD was the best option. And since I know that most of the expert groups that work in my area are in Europe, and luckily I got into one of those here in Tartu. So the motivation is mostly about the passion of following your research, passion for finding answering the challenges, the passion for that joyous moment when you find a answer to a difficult question, when you solve say, in my case, it's mostly about something related to deriving relationships between, say, environmental factors and emission, say, carbon or nitrous oxide, something like that. If you can explain that kind of thing, at the end of the day, makes my life easier. I'd be happy then. And then I go for a nice walk in the neighborhood, maybe a good meal, maybe a beer, something like that. So that's what's kind of keeping me on to this. I like to figure out stuff and analyze stuff, all that things. Yeah, that's it.
Such great motivation. Thank you. We want to hear briefly from Merit about her coursework in the program.
About my courses?
The coursework in your program, yes.
Well, I'm really happy with the courses that I'm taking. Of course, in my case, because I already did my bachelor's and my master's in Tartu, and I already took some courses that I could take right now earlier during my master's, for example. But I still think that there is a great choice of courses, and also there's this university-wide courses. For example, for PhD students, like courses on academic writing and presentations and these kinds of things that are really useful, or statistics, for example, which are like useful for all PhD students. So I think there's like this really good combination of just like program-specific courses, and then this university-wide courses, and also just the possibility that you can take other courses from completely different programs if you feel like you want to learn something entirely different. That is really great, I think.
Very great. There are so many options we have, you have, we all have to make, but I want to hear specifically from Ruby. Why did you think pursuing a doctoral degree was the right goal for you?
So I've mentioned before that I have been interested in neuroscience right from my bachelor's studies, and it only felt logical for me to pursue it in my like take elective courses in neuroscience in my master's and then pursue it higher. I also had these opportunities to go into different labs during my bachelor's and master's degree, and I was studying autism and Parkinson's disease, which are all neurological disorders. And I really liked the work environment, the nature of work, and I understood that this type of work environment or the skills is suits me well, and I'm happy doing this this kind of work. And right now I do a lot of imaging, and it makes me very happy to see these effects either in the cellular model or animal models. And yeah, I think this brings me joy, and I feel like a purpose for me to dwell deep into the subject. So that's why.
I noticed the glow in your eyes when you say, this brings me joy. I can't wait to be happy also. Now we have another question. Did speakers in general apply to a PhD position while finishing their master's degree or after getting a master's degree? We want to hear from Sandeep.
Okay, so I worked back in India for 2 years, and then applied for after masters. I worked for 2 years, and then found this position, moved to Tartu. That's what happened in my case, and yeah.
That's great. Now, when we hear from the people in question, it's easier to relate. We want to hear from our speakers tonight. One piece of advice you have for our future PhD students. So we'll start from Mary.
One piece. Okay. For applying or for being a PhD?
Okay, she decided to make it 2 ways, so you tell them for applying and
both. Okay. For applying, I would just say be confident and don't worry too much. And when being a PhD student, I would say just take the most of all the possibilities that you are given. Yes.
Okay. Grab all necessary opportunities. Yes, I'm keeping that very strong. Now, Ruby, want to hear one piece of advice you would want to tell those considering academic career for future applicants. What you have to tell them about pursuing a PhD?
I think, in my opinion, the most important advice from me is to find a very good supervisor. And by very good supervisor means not just research. I think if they have reached in that position, all of them are good researchers, but be with one who will support you emotionally, sometimes might open doors financially for you through different funds, and will encourage you to apply for awards and help you go for conferences. Like someone who will discuss science and your projects on a day-to-day basis. Of course, research is important, but it might change during the course of your PhD. It changes for everyone, most of us, and times can get difficult. So a positive supervisor or supporting supervisor is the most important aspect of your PhD, and not just during your PhD. A good supervisor will promote you even after your PhD to help some postdoc opportunities, will suggest you for awards later in the academic career. So that is the most important part while applying for a PhD. And while doing your PhD, I would say keep track, be disciplined, and do not overwork, because you might feel burnt out and then you might lose the motivation altogether. So a slow but consistent pace is much better than being in a situation where you're burnt out and you lose all motivation. So take care of yourself as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much. Before we hear from Sandeep, what he has, the piece of advice for us, we have another question. And I think Merit is in the best position to answer this. It says, where can I find a supervisor connected with teaching phonetics?
Yes, I'm not a specialist in phonetics because I'm looking at grammar, not at sound, but I still know the people who work with phonetics at our institute. So you can go to the website of the university, especially of our institute, the Institute of Estonian and General Linguistics. And then there's the phonetics lab. And there's all the people who work with phonetics. And then you can just, I guess, Google these people and see what they have done and contact them in general and ask them for advice when you already have a topic in mind.
Thank you. This question is asking for an academic connection on how to find RA and TA position while studying masters. Person says, I have my master's thesis to defend this semester, and I am looking for PhD position. So any suggestions on how to establish such academic connection? We want to hear from Ruby.
So if you want an RA position while doing your master's, then I'm assuming that you're already in Tartu. And I think you have to have a thesis for your bachelor's and master's degree. You have to write a thesis. And if you have some prospective supervisors for your PhD in mind, I would suggest work with those supervisors, get to know the supervisor and the work, and probably they can be your future supervisors, and you get an RA position while doing your master's.
Okay, thank you. We have from Hilary from Africa. He studies in Bangladesh and is asking, he has interest in PhD program in social science, but is focusing on the fully funded scholarship. What is your advice for him? Would hear Sandeep. Your mic is muted.
Okay, cool. I'm back. Okay. So fully funded positions. So like I said, since this academic year, since the coming academic year, University of Tartu is gonna have would take you in an employment position. So I'm guessing that scholarship part is covered there. So I guess you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. And for, yeah, I guess, I think I answered the question. Is there anything left? to answer.
Thank you. I can imagine. I don't plan to spend my whole life being in studies, but I am thinking right now, medicine, linguistics. Okay. Well, we want to hear from Sandeep. Tell us a piece of advice for future applicants and prospective PhD students. Yes.
Of course. So one best advice, like one thing that I could say is that you don't have to know everything in your subject to do your PhD. The PhD itself is a journey of learning. So it doesn't matter if you don't know the stuff. You have the time to learn. You have the resources. You have the experts around you. You can always go to them, ask, discuss with them, learn from them. And just find the time to relax. Never, be in front of the system, be in the lab all the time, like Ruby said. Go out, chill with your friends. It can chillax, reboot your system, and then and you could, even if you're struggling, there might be in the near future, you will find a way for that. Well, the struggling part, it's part of the PhD. One day or other day, it's going to come to you. Right now, I'm struggling. So, but I know I'm going to, one day I'm going to figure it out sooner. You have your resources, even if you're struggling, like I said before, you can openly discuss with your supervisor. Say, if you're struggling, you could go to them and say, I'm not able to figure this out. What can I do here? They might have a better advice for you. But if you don't talk to them, if you keep if you isolate yourself, you might never figure it out. So open up and discuss. That's one of the advice that I could give.